So Amina had this particular doubt of in case if there is a spelling issue or something like that, what do we do it? And we were in conversation with her. Now, say, for example, if I'm introducing a lesson in my class, say, suppose I'm doing a lesson in my class, and this is very generic, okay, nothing related to your lesson. It's just one of my lesson. What is the uses of computer? If this is my lesson, I say we can draw, we can color, we can listen to songs, we can send and receive letters, we can make beautiful greeting cards, we can play games, car racing, we can do some sums or calculate it and all of that. I can also give larger sentences. Now it becomes easier for the child. Now, what is very important for me over there is like if the child want to understand something towards the end, if the teacher realizes or if you realize that there is a difficulty in learning the spellings, which is occurring frequently in your lesson, as a teacher, what I need to be doing is like I help the child to read those words because I'm doing a lesson on computer, I could hear or I could see this word being there throughout the book multiple times. Now, if you see, there are color differences. Okay, so this is the syllabication part of it. So computer, the child reads it in that particular way. Watch. So we use computer to watch. We use computer to watch movies. We use computer to watch movies and cartoons. We also see computers in shops. We see them in malls. We see them in office. We see them in banks. Banks. We would be able to draw, color, listen. Okay, now this is where there are some rules that you apply. You say when I'm trying to tell, I have to cut down the silent T. I say listen. I don't say listen, right? So there's a silent word altogether. So I mark it, whichever is the color code that you want to maintain for your class for the silence word. So I maintain it as a color, black color. So whenever there's a black which appears on this colorful words, I say it's a silent word. So when you're saying it, it is listen. When you're writing it, it has to be listen. Okay, listen, then TEN, however you want to bring it. So you put these words into your tricky word wall. Now the child sees more often. Beautiful, greeting, family. Okay, again, it is like, when I'm saying, I don't say family, I say family, right? I have a wonderful family. I don't say I have a wonderful family. We don't say that way, right? So we say that we don't use that while saying. So these are some of the signs that you can help your child to work on. The words like station, okay, it is like when I'm going phonetically, it is station, but it has to be station. So TI is being substituted with the sound SH. So these are the alternative letter sounds. So when you do sessions on phonetics, it gives you a lot of combinational words for a particular sounds like, station. So TI gets substituted with SH. Okay, so that's one way of doing it. Like say again, airport, air. So that's a long vowel sound. So when you're trying to work on this way, your spellings do get, your child can be able to master a good amount of spellings altogether. So that's one way that you can improvise your spellings for your child. So pick out the words which is frequently occurring in your lesson, whichever lesson that you're trying to work on, and pick out the most important words from that lesson, and then you could give it to your children. So that's one way that you could improvise the spellings for the child. Yeah, I mean, so you don't have to explicitly say like, how do I introduce a long vowel or a short vowel? They would get it. Okay. Yeah. So when they're two, it's like.
The issue was, is there any rule for spellings? Because there are some words, their pronunciation is not matching with that sound.
Pronunciations do not match with the words. I totally agree with that, because whenever we do have lessons like that, it does not help children, okay, so much on towards the sounds and things like that. So you have to work on the phonetic rules and extensions. So when you're doing a phonic class lessons, you would be able to give them a proper norm for it. Okay. Say, for example, when you're working on your, say, phonic classes, or when you're working on the reading of it, so you could always, if there is a confusion, okay, so if there is a confusion, so let me pick up a file for it for you. So you said like there is a lot of confusion for the child to actually work on the phonetic sounds and things like that, correct? So at that particular time, what I would always suggest is like, give some vowel sounds. Okay, so you have to give some lessons like this. Now, say for example, in case if I'm working on the long vowel sounds and it is like O, correct? So I would first give a quick introduction to some of the words like bone, home, alone, pole, broke, robe, rose, rope. See, everything has O. Okay, now since I'm also like worried about the alternative spellings, so we also have OA. We saw that, it's a diphthong because it has got a vowel and a vowel combination, but still it makes up a long O sound. So these are the alternative spelling sounds that you can also work with. So when you give them with different color codes, what happens? It gets it into the child's brain. More often you do the same, you repeat, you revise, and you recite, it becomes easy for them. So do it musically. So there are so many vowel sounds, sing-alongs that you can wear it, and you can print these cards. Give more of reading. It hardly takes 5 minutes in your circle time to rotate the cards. Like I can have multiple things like that in a class. If I want to do on a long A, long vowel A, so I can have the same kind of printouts all together. And I could give the child about a long vowel. Okay, so it's May, lake, Jake, gate, pale, nail, bake, cake, day, ray, male, Jane, all of that, correct? So we do these kinds of exercises, which is going to help the child in a very separate program, because phonetics is a larger part of the information. I think few of you have already attended the phonic class of mine. I think Delphin has already attended, Monica has attended the phonic class, Swagatika has also attended. Few of them, whenever we have these frequent trainings on phonetics and other things, please do attend, because it gives a larger perspective of how exactly the spellings can be introduced to our children. Monica, you're not keeping well? Okay, all right, okay. So this is one thing that you can actually work on for the spellings and things like that, okay? So yeah, so let's move forward. So today being the 14th day, we do have a very less strength for today. So let's see who can consistently be there for all our 15-day challenge or a program. Okay, so right from 20, we have dropped to 8. Okay, so not even 8, 6 of them, including me. We are 6 of us. Okay, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, 6 of us. Okay, but still 6 is a good number for all of us to be there for today. All right. Oh, okay. So again here in the last class, when I was talking about in the last class, we did have some kind of what I could say is like the exercises. And today being the day 14, we're starting with our new practicals, and that's called your cultural sciences. Okay. So as I said, Montessori has 5 different areas altogether. We had our practical life skill, we had sensorial, we had language, we had math, and at last was our cultural. And today we would be working with our cultural sciences, and this is going to be the structure for today. Okay, so before we get started, so we have a routine hello song. So let's say hello to one another. A simple sing-along, which is going to give you a greeting song for each other. Okay, so you can sit down in your place and we can all sing along the song. Let me hello, 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 how are you? Hello, hello. Okay, 1 second. How are you? Channel. Let's begin the sing along. Hello, 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 how are you? Hello, 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 how are you? I'm good. I'm great. I'm wonderful. I'm good. I'm great. I'm wonderful. You can nod your head. Hello, 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 how are you? Hello, 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 how are you? I'm tired. I'm hungry. Most of us are feeling tired. I'm not so good. I'm tired. I'm hungry. I'm not so good. Amazing. That's very good. And a hello song is always important for all of us. And once we are done with our hello song, it's also important that we keep up something which is related to our sing-alongs. Walking, 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 hop, 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 hop. Running, 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 running. Now let's stop. Now let's stop. Next is the toe, tiptoe, 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 skip, 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 skip. Running. What happened? No music? One second. Running, 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 running.
Running. Now let's stop.
Now let's stop. Okay, so that was one of the sing-along that keeps most of us energetic all the very time. Okay, so that was a quick introduction for today. We are, as I said, that we're going to be doing history cultural lesson. Our day 14, I would invite all of you to be a part of this amazing lesson. Okay, so we have cultural sciences. I gave you a quick introduction to the students who have joined a little late. So we're going to be having the cultural lesson for today. And these are the 5 important areas of our Montessori. So it's EPL, sensorial, language, math, and cultural. And today we're going to be working on the cultural sciences. So first of all, let me give you a quick introduction about what is cultural science. So you can start noting it down. See, whenever we have something in cultural, so I could say we did our language, correct? So in language, we did a lot of lessons wherein we worked on our vocabulary. Agree? Everybody agrees with me on this particular note, right? So we do a lot of lessons in language. A language helps for us in building our vocabulary. You agree that we build on our vocabulary, right? At the same time, we would also be working on learning new things and things like that. So our cultural is an extension, okay, to our language class in our Montessori. Okay, so what I could say is like, you could use any language here. Okay, so it could be your own mother tongue. So you could use your mother tongue, so not specifically English, because this is the stage where the child is trying to bridge to the culture. Now, in cultural science, we are learning about the cultures of that particular place. Okay, so it becomes easy when you're trying to talk or communicate in your own language. So written language is totally different. So you can use English as a written language or German, French, or whichever is the language that you're going to be using in your country. So that's a different thing altogether. But at the beginning, you could always use your language to build a bridge to the culture. This is one important thing that we need to be working on. So what is the necessary for doing this? See, whenever we are having our social cultures and the cultural context all together, we are having something which is at our home, and then there's something at our school. Say, for example, in case if there is a celebration, you have some common celebrations, right? So, for example, in case if there is a Christmas celebration, some of the students would have seen Christmas celebration at their home. And if there is a celebration similar at school, they would also be able to see that. So what happens, this, I'm just taking this as an example. So it totally depends on your celebrations or anything. Or if there is a food preparation activity, the child would have seen a particular meal getting cooked at home. And if the same thing is really happening at school, and if somebody prepares the same meal on that particular activity, the child will be able to relate it. So that means there is a social and a cultural context which is happening between your home and your school. So this is important. So once you're trying to bridge this gap and make it easy for the child will be able to adapt easily to his culture. Now here we are only talking about culture. Okay, so you have to make it much more comfortable in your schools. Okay, so this is one thing which is more important. So how will the child learn? The child will experience everything what is around him. Now for that, we need to use language as just as a guidance. I'm going to use it as a guidance, and I'm going to give some instructions for it. Okay. Now, when I'm trying to work on all of that, I'm going to be using some kind of words for the language construction. So what is happening? My child is growing the vocabulary, correct? So the child is also learning or growing the vocabulary also. Now I am going to be working and I'm going to deep dive into my cultural learning. So what is my cultural learning, or what are the different things that I learn in this practicals? I would learn many things. The first thing is like I will have my experience in arts. I do a lot of coloring, I do painting, and so many things like that. Next is like I do some kind of a dance. So we need to move our body, we need to experience the rhythm and movement. Now, when I'm trying to dance and move my body parts, it is a gross motor skill that I'm developing. There is a lot of movement. Now, for doing all of this, I need some music for it, correct? So we need music. Now, when all these three things are getting combined, we are trying to add something to the child's life. What is it? There's something which is related to science. Agree? Everybody agrees on this? Are we adding something to the science of the child? The child is psychologically fine, mentally is happy, physically he's fit to actually work on. So somewhere down the line, our cultural is related to the science behind it. Okay. So what kind of sciences? So are we going to further divide that into what kind of sciences that the child is going to have it? Definitely yes. But I'm going to be only worried about the physical science. I'm going to be only dealing with physical science for the child. Now, along with these art, dance, music, science, physical science, all of that, I should also be talking about something very important that's called the history of the place or anything. And I also need to be talking about the geographical part of my country or whichever place that you're staying in. So this is important. So in a crystal nutshell, what am I going to be introducing to the child? So cultural path is like a sensorial base to the child itself. I'm going to create some kind of an area or a prepared environment where I would introduce lessons on arts, dance, music, drama, geography, history, physical sciences, and so on. Clear, everybody? Why do we do that? Because we want the child to become a participating member of the society. Correct? We want children to sufficiently work so that, he's able to construct himself into the culture and feels much more comfortable when he's around the people of his own. So we do need some materials for it, correct? We need some materials to demonstrate. What are those materials? We would be able to see that. And now, which is the age that I do it? So it's very general. So I do it for children of 3 to 6 years or something that we commonly use it. So far, is the introduction clear? What is the exercise that we would be working on? Clear? Okay. Clear? Yes, no, say something.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, now I'm going to start with a very simple exercise. Okay, it's related to geography. Note down the subheading. We're going to start with geography. Okay, so in geography, what are the different things that you can actually learn? Can somebody tell me?
The parts of our country.
Okay,
And
you learn about the country.
Climate, ma'am.
You learn about the climate. Okay,
Directions.
we learn about the directions. Very good.
States.
We learn about,
States.
is it the universe, space that you're talking about?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, space. Okay.
population.
You learn about people, their diversity. You also learn about the geographical factors like climate, weather, conditions, and so on. We also talk about country. Country is in some continent, correct? Continent where continent is, it is on a planet, so it is on the land. Okay, and the land is surrounded by some water, and a land mass and a water mass together collectively is in a planet called Earth. And where is the Earth? It is there in some space, right? So we have so many things which is actually working on it. So in totally, we do work on all these kinds of aspects. So geography is basically a study of a life of a man. So the way that we all live, the way that we are able to sustain in our human society. And we also start to study a lot of things It could be the features of the earth. It could be the cultures that we develop. It could be many other things, or it could be the parts of different countries. It could be the flags of the country, the habitat of the country, whatever it could be. It need not be that you have to learn about this only when you go there and meet. No, you can stay in another part of the country and you can still learn about something else which is totally far from you, totally different from you, totally in a different location altogether. Okay. So what we do is like we start learning about people around the world of different location who live differently, who adapt differently, and who's offered differently. Okay. Basically, we are trying to learn about the cultures of different people from different places. Okay. Now, again, in this geography, we do have physical geography, wherein we are talking only about the land masses and things like that. Okay. We learn about the climatic zones, as somebody said. We learn about the maps. We learn about the pictures. We learn about the political geography, wherein we see about the divisions of how the world has been divided, and we have so many people across the world and all of that. So we get a lot of information about all of that. Okay, so that is your physical geography altogether. Now, what I need to be working as a subheading under this is like, first thing is like, we need to introduce about geography, right? So you need to give an introduction to what is geography. So what you should show to the child first, children, we belong to a planet called Earth. Agree? So we show our planet Earth. We show our planet Earth and we tell children it is made up of land and it is made up of water. We tell them about this. So we have to give them about, then the child will start asking questions. How do you know this is of this particular shape? And why do you know that this is of this particular color? And so on. Definitely yes, because when you're dealing with children of 2 to 6 years, children will definitely have a lot of questions like this. So that is the time you tell them that we can discover this beautiful world from where? Not from the earth, but from the sky. You tell them that we see this beautiful world from the sky. And they're like, ma'am, can we see? You say you cannot go and see like that. For that, you need to be an astronaut. Correct? You need to be an astronaut to have this. Now the child will get a lot of responses and they would have a lot of ideas. And they're like, okay, ma'am, now what can I become an astronaut and then I can go? Then you can say like, this is what you have to do and things like that. And now later, there are other things that you can actually start telling the child to observe in the earth. You can now tell them, okay, fine, now let's do some kind of a spying activity. You say, we're all standing on the planet Earth. Now let's look outside. So we are using our visual sense as a supporting, and you tell them to experience it. Now, experiencing is important. Okay, so they have to feel the air. Okay, they have to feel the temperatures. They have to say, oh, it's a hot weather, it's a cold weather, many things. And the teacher can also say, can you look at the clouds? Can you look at the rain? Can you experience rain? Can you jump in a puddle after the rain is stopped? Okay, you can give them different kinds of things. And then you tell them the entire earth is made up of two things. We have our land and we have water. So we have to help the child understand between these two things. Now they've seen the land, they have also seen the water. So then you tell children, you need land and you need water to sustain on this earth. Now the child understood, okay, it's not the toy car, it is not this, it's not that. I need to have some land, I need to have some water. Now what? Then you tell, okay, this is when there was a possibility of land and water. That is when the entire concept of human life came into our existence. And that's how we all started living in our own home. The child understands, oh, that's how we got our home, because you're trying to introduce the child to the geography lesson. Okay, now you came till here. Now, what you need to do now, you have to go back to your grace and courtesy lesson. You have to tell, see, it's so difficult that we made our home. It's not that easy. So what you need to do, you need to take care of it. Just like how we do it in our classroom, And at our home, we need to also take care of our environment, our Mother Earth. How? By not littering, by not throwing, by not using the plastic, many other things that you can actually tell. And you can get into concepts like reuse, reduce, and recycle. Okay, so this is a basic introduction that you give it to children. Now the child has got so much of an understanding of, okay, this is how the geography lessons and my classes are going to be there. Then the teacher slowly starts to introduce the shelf. Okay, so this is the shelf where we keep all our material of our geography. And she says the first one that we are going to be using in this is going to be a globe. In the last class, I think I showed you the globe, so I will not repeat it again. So here, the teacher says we have a sandpaper globe and we have a colorful globe, right? So a sandpaper globe is where it looks very much similar, correct? So when you're standing from the sky on top, and from there, if you see, you ask the child to imagine as if he is there standing in the sky, and ask him to imagine the sky. Sorry, imagine the earth. So what will the child say? Ma'am, it is made up of land and the remaining things is made up of water. So this is how it is. So you can ask the child to make their own globe art activity. This is also cultural because I'm trying to involve my child in an art activity wherein he's trying to draw. Now I could say since it's water, I'm going to color it or paint it blue. And since it's land, I'm going to color it brown or whatever it is. Okay, so this is the first thing we do it with the child. So now to give an understanding for a child even more better, you need to have some visual sense, right? So if I say draw a globe, it's you all can draw it because we're all adults. We have seen it somewhere. We have learned it somewhere. We could do everything. But for a child, he's learning and hearing everything for the very first time. So will it be easy for him? Definitely, it will not be easy, correct? So it's going to take a little while for him also to understand about the skills of what we need to have it and things like where we generally store it and have all of that, correct? So in that particular time is where the teacher goes and gives him about the different landforms. So this is where we prepare our environment. So preparing of the environment is really important before I introduce any lesson. Now I am going to introduce a lesson on land and water. The next subheading, please write down, everybody. So we are going to learn something on land and water. We're going to learn land and water. Now, before doing this, I need to introduce some of the concept, correct? So what I would do here is like, I bring my land and water form material. Okay, so it's going to be a tray. You will have certain things like this. Okay, it could be an island, it could be a peninsula, it could be many other things. So we do bring in the conceptuals of land and water. Now for this, I need to have multiple things. I will have picture cards. Okay, I would have definition book. Now, why do I need a definition book? Because I wanted to say the same thing to the child. Now, say for example, what is an island? If I want to tell a child about island, I say island is a piece of land which is surrounded by water. So I write a definition for it and I keep it as a booklet. So we have cards, we have definition books, and then we do have the material to introduce land and water forms. Okay. Now, before introducing land and water forms, I want everybody to introduce the globe to the child. Only after you introduce globe is what you will go with the next lesson. Clear? So let's see the presentation of it. This is the material that we would be using it in our classes. Okay. So it's called your land and the water exercises. Okay. So here is what you see, the definition card book. And you have the picture cards. Okay, so that's the definition book. So whichever is the card that you're going to be saying. So we are going to talk about island and lake. Now you have to read out the definition for the child. So what's an island? An island is a piece of land which is surrounded by water. So you tell and you demonstrate it by pouring the water, because the child has understood the entire earth is made up of two things, water and land. So you have water and then there is land. So this is called an island. Now what's lake? What's lake? It's a piece of water which is land, correct? So you got a lot of difference here. There is a visual sense. Now, at the same time, the child is also able to understand and relate because you poured water into it and you really experienced and you gave them the natural cards of how an island and a lake looks like. Same thing you give it for a cape and bay. Now, what is cape? Now, see, cape is surrounded by three sides of water. You can see the top side, left, and the right side. It's a large portion of the land which is extended towards the water. So that's a cape. So land is extending towards the water. So this is larger portion of it. But what's a bay? A large portion of water which is extended towards the land, that's your bay. So you give the definitions to the child and the child is able to understand. So you need to collect some of your vocabulary and you need to also give the explanation in such a way that the child is able to understand. So keep it as simple as possible. Let the child visually see it. Okay. And experience the look and feel of that particular exercise. Now that's cape and that's bay. Now what's a peninsula and what's a gulf? Now peninsula is again a piece of land which is slightly long enough, which is extending towards an ocean or a sea. Correct? So that's a peninsula. We do and repeat the same exercises. And gulf is again a larger or a very narrow strip of the water which is extending towards larger portions of your land. So that's gulf. Now the child got the difference of what's peninsula and what's a gulf. This is an amazing cultural science material. Okay, so if you have this material, please introduce the land and the water forms or the land masses because it helps the child understand the places and habitats and things like that. Next we have is like isthmus and strait. Now isthmus is like a narrow strip of land which connects to the larger portions of water. Okay, it'll be in between. So in between you will find some land which is like separating the water, it could be, or it could touch the water sources also. But it's a long and a narrow piece of land. So that's your isthmus. But what about a strait? Now, strait is again a narrow stream of water which is touching a larger portion of land masses. So that's your strait. How amazing nature is, right? We would be able to see it. And then you start collecting pictures. Where all can we find isthmus? Where all strait is there? So you can find out the places and you can give them as examples to the child. Can you see this particular place? So collect a lot of pictures, so do this as a little. And this is the last portion. It's called the archipelago. Okay, archipelago and system of lakes. Now, what is archipelago? It is like a bunch of islands which is surrounded by water. So there are so many neighboring islands, I could say. For example, like Mauritius has a lot of islands, which is like, it's called the land of islands. Okay, so that could be one of the place, which we call it as archipelago. And we do also have system of lakes. Can you see the smaller portions? So there is like so much of a water body, which is there in large masses of land. That's system of lake. So these are all your tiny lakes. So these are the different types of your land and water masses. So we need to help the child understand and differentiate that on Earth, we can have islands, we can have peninsulas, we can have archipelago, we can have system of lakes, we can have a lake, we can have pond, we can have river, we can have streams. So many things is what you can actually introduce depending upon what is the lesson that you're going to be introducing for that particular day. What's important for us is have a preparation of all of that. Once you're done, you just show them all of that. What's a cape, what's a bay, what's a peninsula, what's a gulf, and how is isthmus and strait look like. And this is such a visual pleasing sight for children. This is the first exercise. After you introduce globe, you give it to your child. Did you like it?
Yes, ma'am.
ma'am.
Beautiful exercise, right? So this is one thing that you can always introduce to your children in your cultural science. See, most often what people do is like we miss out a lot on cultural sciences, but it is very important for the child to understand the culture also. Okay, so this is one of the first important one in geography, especially. Now, once you're done with that, what you need to now do is like, now, does everybody have this material? So many teachers will say, ma'am, I don't have this material. How can I do? What's our best friend?
Google Map.
Teacher's best friend most of the time is clay. And you can make any models because you are such an amazing teacher who wants to do something and beyond for their classes. You got this idea, okay. Now, what we do, we take up the clay and we model all of this. So, what are we trying to do? We are doing it ourselves. So, we do a do it yourself kind of an activity, wherein the teacher has got an idea and now she starts doing everything on her own. What she does here is like, so she makes a clay model, okay, an amazing teacher, as all you guys are. So, we make up a clay model because we don't have anything to show it over here. So we can do this kind of a clay model and you can still introduce the lesson. So what was this? It's an island and a
Lake.
yeah, an island and a lake. So you can always use clay to introduce any of the topics that you want to introduce for your child. So go with 222. Okay, so today you introduce island and then lake. Tomorrow you introduce bay and a cape. Okay, so but make sure the water is slightly blue in color because it gives the reflection of the sky. So students always ask, why is the water blue in color? You can say it depends upon reflection. Okay, so that's the reason we actually add it as blue color. One DIY that you can actually work on with your children. Okay, so that's one thing. Now, once this is done, you need to have a lot of preparation because we're doing a lot of activities, right? So, how does your shelves be? Your shelves should be abundant with lots of materials. What we do over here is like, say, if I'm introducing something on the land masses, I can introduce something which is related to my continents later. Okay, so before this, let me stop this. Before doing this, I would also want to introduce something which is more important, as I said, right? So what was important for me was to introduce about the globe. So we retell the child over and again that globe is made up of two things. That is, we do have what do you call like a landform and the water bodies, and the land is all brown in color. We tend to experience that. So the teacher will be giving this multiple number of times as a visual sense, as a cultural exercise, sensorial exercise, whatever you call it. But the child is now seeing it. Now, what is he aware? He's aware that there are so many land masses, and we learned in our sensorial that there are 7 continents, correct? So we learned about the 7 continents also, correct? So what are those continents? Now, if at all, if I want to introduce the lessons for the child on those continents, I go with the names. Can you just touch this and tell me what's the name of it? Oh, it's Africa, or it's America, it's North America, South America, Antarctica. Okay, so you give all the names of your continents for the child, and then you say largest one being the Asia, this is Australia, and the down one is your Antarctica. So the teacher gives a very good idea about all the 7 continents. And now the child is very thorough with what? The names of the continents, and along with that, they are able to understand the positions of the continents also. So I'm just using a sandpaper globe for all of that. The next exercise, after I introduce globes, is called, it's called the continent box. Okay, now it's called the continent box. Now, say for example, if I'm choosing Asia, so Asia is one of the largest continent altogether. So I can talk about multiple other countries which is there in Asia. I can talk about the languages in Asia. I can talk about the currency. I can talk about the country names. Along with that, the country capitals. What else? Currency, names, capitals, language. Talk about the animals of that continent. We can talk about the birds of the continent. We can talk about the culture of that continent. We can talk about the tradition of the continent. Many things. Correct? Now, to do all of that, and don't forget that we are always with Montessori, correct? So what you need to do always is you need to have your classified cards. So you need to always have your classified cards wherein you're going to have the pictures of each one of them. Say, for example, if I've taken the country, okay, if I've taken the country, so I will have different country names, correct? So I can have different country names in the Asian continent. Maybe I take India, I take Sri Lanka, I take then all the neighboring countries, like I take Japan, many other countries which are in Asia. So I can give the country flag, or I can give the shape of the country itself. And that becomes my classified. The child is able to see. This is one of the things. Now, in this box, in the continent box of Asia, we might have multiple things like that. Just like that, I would also make boxes for many continents, for all the continents, I could say. Agree? Okay, everybody is agreed on this. So we are going to make the continent boxes for all the countries. Okay, so how does these continent boxes look like? So if you don't have this material, not a problem. You can take any box, what is available at your school or what is there, locally available in the market. So you can use it. Preferably, it is good if you're taking a wooden box because it's really recyclable. Okay, so for example, if I'm using the boxes like this, okay, so if I'm choosing a box of Africa, I would have everything related to Africa, North America, South America, Europe, Asia, and all of that. Now just try to open that. What's the first important thing that we need to have is like, the thing is like you need to have the country map. That's important. And all the parts of your lesson as a teacher that you want to introduce. Now, apart from that, you can also give a reference map wherein the child will have to figure out where is Africa continent in the entire world map. So they have to finger point it. They understand, okay, it's such a large portion of land and there are so many things which is famous for. And this particular map or a puzzle can have what is important. Now say you can have some label cards. See, these are all DIYs which the teacher has done it. Okay, if you don't get the materials, not to worry, you can make it by your own. So if it is Africa, probably you can talk about the currency. Correct? Okay, you can give about the different currencies, whatever you have. Egypt has what currency? South Africa has what currency? Kenyan currency is what? The first thing that you can give is about the currency, because you tell the child that you need some kind of, money to survive. Then you can talk about famous places or the natural wonder places, like Zuma Rock is very famous in Africa, right? So you can give the child an experience of a visual sight. Okay, the child is able to see most of the places. You don't have to literally tell that. And you can also point out, these are the readily available ones. It also gives you a flag. So which part of the country or which country it belongs to in that particular continent. Okay, so Sahara Desert is a large desert which touches so many countries over there. So it touches so many other countries. So you can tell the child, okay, so it touches so many countries, and that's the reason we do have the flags over there. So likewise, it's not only about the famous places of that particular places. You can also talk about the fruits. It could be the flowers. It could be other kinds of famous vegetation of that location. You can bring. Now, that's the reason in our language also, we worked first on the classification cards, because the classification was helping. If you have any real flower, which you've been using it in your classes for presentation, you could show it to the child. Most importantly, the food. Okay, it is again important in our cultural sciences. We need to use food, the famous food of that particular places. Then you add extensions to what are the animals which is available. Any miniature animals in your class, show the cards. Okay, it's always important you show the real animals. Okay, if you see there, we have the lion, a toy lion. That's okay. But you should also show the real creature also, like how it looks. Okay, do not try to download the clip arts or the toy kind of a version animals. Show them the real images of the animals and try to match it. So this is also one part of your lesson that you're going to have it. What about the birds? We do it the same way. What about the musical instruments? So we are trying to work with all kinds of cultural aspects of this particular continent altogether, the famous places, the historical places, the different kinds of important ones. It could be the landmarks or anything that is naturally available over there, the monuments of that particular language, and you could actually give a lot of resources. It's not only on this, you can work on it. And most importantly, towards the last is like the flags of the countries which is there in that particular continent. And you could ask the child, from which part of this continent are you from? Okay, in case if your class is filled with 8 students and they're a part of that particular, you can start from that and then show them the large flag card, which is of a flag of Africa, totally like that. And then you start moving. And then don't forget about the dresses, the culture. Okay, so tell them about what kind of dresses that women wear, or what kind of the things that people carry, their vegetation, or if there are any spices which is required, what kind of spices are available, and where can they buy them, everything. It's not only that what you need to have it, and what kind of homes were built, how were the homes, and how did the children were enjoying themselves. What is the favorite play over in that particular places? So everything about those particular continents is what you can actually bring in. And that's the reason you need to have something called as the continent box, and you give more information about that particular continent. Okay, so in this video, it was taken as Africa. You can pick up any other continent and you can start working on the same way. So this is your second thing. So what did we all learn here at the continent box? Multiple things, right? So what did we first started off with? We started with our classified cards. And then if you wanted to go deeper into it and learn more about it, you can also work on something called as nomenclature. So you can also have nomenclature cards for the different landforms, and then you show them about all of that. So climate also you can discuss. Okay, so that's one part of your exercise of what you actually do it. Now, when it comes down to going individually, now say for example, if I want to go individually and if I want to teach, so most of us, what we start off is like with the flags. Okay, so we can always begin with the flags of the continent. Okay, we can start off with the flags, and we can have the flags of the world. You can pick up any of the countries or all the countries' flags. You can actually take it up. So you can download these cards from a website called Montessori Research. Okay, so there is another website. I'll give it in the beginning itself. Okay, this is called Montessori Research and Development. So if you go over here, you will find the free printables also. So you can download these set of cards. Okay, so it will have a map on each of the card. And along with that, the country will be highlighted. Now, what is this? Now, since it's highlighted in red, it's called the nomenclature card. Now you're getting it? Because see, now your eye is just going towards Kenya, correct? So we are only looking at Kenya because it's highlighted in red color, and it also has an error of control. So what is the error? Find out that. And now you bring your globe, you show them a picture card of a particular country, and you tell them which continent does it belong to. They say, okay, ma'am, it belongs to Africa. And then we were like, okay, in Africa, where is it? Can you show it to me? The child will have to now point out to that particular country altogether. So this is a beautiful card set that you can download it and you could make it. So this is one thing. So it will have the complete set of 219 flags of individual continents. If you don't want any of the copyrights, you can buy them. Okay, so these are all the country names that we do have it. And you can download from their website, and flags of Asia, flags of many other continents and famous things are available at their websites. Okay, so this I wanted to share it to you. You can note down, or it is there in the record. Find it out. So this was related to our flags. Now, what next that you need to be introducing in your geography lessons is about, I could say, is not only on the component boxes, but also on something called as your, what I could say is like sorting boxes and things like that. So far we have only learned about land and water, correct? So far, we learned only about land and water. Now, slowly, you will start introducing something called as air also. And that, for transportation, we can either go by land forms, we can go by water forms, or we can go by air forms. So you introduce slowly the three different ways of transportation to our children, because we need to commute from one place to another. Now the child has got an understanding, okay, if I want to move from one place to another, I will not be able to jump around and jump into another country, right? It's really very far. So the child understands, I need to use any of these modes of transportation and we need to go. And how do you introduce the pictures? It's always through the picture cards itself. So you go by giving them, these are the land forms, these are the water forms, these are our, what I could say is like the air transports, airplane and other things. And then the child understands, okay, fine, what is this? And what I could do as an activity, see, always you have to use art. Children love doing art, and that's the reason the cultural science is also about the art. And you give them different colored printouts and you tell them to clay it down, like South America. Now, when they are using the clay or any kind of a sensory play, it helps them to remember for a very longer period of time the shape of that particular map. Correct? So, and it's also like color coded. Now the child understands and they learn it. So this is just a simple exercise that you could always work in your classes by giving them different colored clay altogether. What did we generally do now? The children learned about multiple continents. To support this activity, give a puzzle board. Now see, our puzzle board colors and our clay activity colors are matching. So you have to cross-check with your puzzle board what is the color codes and how is it indicated. And now the child understands it and is able to correlate it to whatever activity that he or she did. This is just like, identification of the continents and things like that. There's beyond this. You can also work on different exercises, but these are something. Now, what we are now trying to work is like, there is no reference. If you see here, now the child has mastered how is the positions of all of this. Then you can go with the empty plate and then you can actually work on it. Okay. So, yeah, it's not only on that. Give them a piece of paper and ask them to do a trace out. The child is tracing the continent, trying to make up a world map by themselves, right? So this is amazing. So we used to do this when we were in 8th standard or 9th standard, to draw a political map and geographical map and things like that. But children do learn it at the very younger ages, like, in PP2, PP3, they start learning about all of that. So they traced over the continent using a puzzle, this thing. And now they're trying to color it using a paintbrush and things like that. So it's a wonderful activity that children did it. So this is one of the things. So now the labeling comes up, because you need to always have the label cards, because the child is also simultaneously learning the names of the continents. Then you give them the map of the world. Then you ask the child to label, figure it out, and tell them where it is. And slowly you bring animals, you bring habitats, you bring in birds and things like that. And you start off with your lessons and you show them the real objects, real animals at that particular places and things like that. So that is a beautiful lesson that you're going to be introducing it in your Montessori classes. So it's related to your land, water, and air. And we need to support with all our, what I could say is like pictures, because children do get conventionally familiar in case if you're showing them a lot of pictures. It's like a language training. You give them a lot of information altogether. You teach most of it just through the pictures itself, be it Arctic zones, be it tropics, be it deserts, be it any specific climates, whatever it is, you do that. And then importantly, you need to also work on something called as your outline maps. Maps are also essential. We just did that, right? So we just got a model tray. We got a model tray and we picked out the continents all together. So the child understood, and then you can take any color pencil and then you can trace out the continent altogether. Now, once this was all done, eventually, directly, indirectly, we were also working on something very essential that was called as reading. Correct? So we had a picture, and along with that, we also had a label. So we were working on our reading skill. And at the same time, we were also marking the outline of our maps also. And what I could also do is like, I can make a book of whatever I have learned. How nice it is. Just like how we had it in our language, I could also make a book out of my learnings. Okay. So that is one of the things that you can actually work on with, and the children can be given some kind of books that you wanted to share or inform it to the child. Okay. Now, one more important thing is like I need to be talking is about the directions. Okay, so when you're talking about the map and globe and all of that, you need to also talk about the directions. Which side of the map is this? Which side of the globe is this particular thing? So you need to always talk about certain things that you always indicate in your atlas. So when you take your atlas, okay, so you need to also talk about the directions, north, south, east, west, how is the direction and things like that. So you help the child understand those particular directions also. Then we find these kinds of strokes, especially. Okay, so let me show you that. You find these kinds of directions mostly in some of the maps and things like that. The child should understand, is it a mountain hub or is it a watery zone and things like that. So the child will have to trace out that particular, what I could say is like a skill, and work it out onto it. So this is one of it. And if you have any of the animals, you bring that. So it's a repetition. So then is what you follow your activity, like match the following, or the child does anything. So it's from here, it's up to the teacher, like what kind of exercises you want to do, cut and label, match the following, match the habitat, match the animal to its shadow, things like that. Okay. So we leave it to the teacher from here. What is the concept that she wants to actually prepare in her own classes? So this is one part of our exercise that we actually do it when it comes down to our geographical factor. So this is one simple exercise that we have done it. Okay. So we can also have other things. Other things you can note it down. What can all be there now? The other things what I could say is like, when you have any of these, in the last class also I showed you about the puzzle map, wherein we went and took the pin, right, and we inserted that on a particular country or a continent. We actually kept that. So that was one thing that we can actually do it. And you could go extensively a little beyond, wherein we can have some kind of cards, which we call them as research cards. So you can say the name of the continent that lies to the south of Africa. So you can have some kind of questions like that. So you can always ask questions to the child. So name a continent which is towards the south of Africa. Okay, because you introduce the directions to the child. Now you can ask questions on directions. Then you can also ask a question like, how many countries in Europe are peninsulas? Now the child starts to think, because the teachers introduce those lessons. Or you could also ask like, how many countries in Europe are there? How many countries in Asia are there? Now the child starts to count. So you are trying to work on this research. So more questions that you need to add. Now for this, to make it easier, you can give something called as the wooden outline map. Now this wooden outline map is country specific. Okay, so whichever country you are, first start off with that. Just give me a minute, 1 second. Okay, so what you have to do over here is like, you need to give them the country specific wooden outline map. When you start giving the country specific wooden outline map, you can go deeper into it. Okay, now this is where you start working on the capital of that country. Okay, so you can go find out different place, different states and all of that. You can find out the capital of that country. And then you can pick, oh, this is the capital city of that particular country. Okay, so this is how you can actually work. So this depends upon which country that you are in. And you can purchase the map of that country, which is going to be in wooden color. So if you're using in Montessori, this is the map that we're going to be using it. Now here, since I'm from India, I'm just showing you the wooden map of India itself. And India has so many states, and we have a peg, which is going to help you to remove the different states altogether. And then we put them back. Okay. And as you're putting back or pulling it in, you can also count how many of them are there. And towards the end is what? You're going to be having some of the pegging, wherein you can peg on the capital city of the country. Okay. We have completed everything. Now you can also go a little bit more detail, like we have union territories. You can share about the extra information about that country's map. So you can purchase your own country's map and you could introduce more about the child. Now here in cultural, it is not necessary that you teach about everything. Okay. Now say if I am from India, I would tell about we belong to Earth, and in Earth we have continents. Okay, so I belong to Asia, and then I'm from country India, and from India, what are the different things? So you would concentrate to your country. So each one of you, whichever country you are a part of it, do a lot of exercises on your country's cultural learning. Okay, so that's important because that's when the child will be able to connect to you. Okay, a full atlas. Through the atlas, the child will be able to compare where I am, what is neighboring to me, what is above me, what is below me. So that is what they're going to have as a comparison, because we are giving them a complete world atlas. Then you go to your country and you work more on the countries. It could be habitats, it could be celebrations of the country, and you gather more information about this country. And then you recite a poem in case if you have your country's anthem, teach the children about the country's anthem. You talk to children about the traditional food at your place. What I could say is, like, if you have a good chance for the field trip or something, you can take around to neighborhood places, which is very famous for, and you can show it to the child also, and ask them also to start sharing it. And political globe also you can give them, but it's okay. Okay. So all this is related to your geography. Okay. So this is a little portion of your cultural science material that we do it in our classes. So clear, everybody? We have completed one portion of our geographical learning. Clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. The next bigger chunk, okay, I will not be taking any breaks because the content itself is so much. I have to cover everything. So if you're feeling sleepy, tired, just stretch yourself, okay? I will not be stopping anywhere. The next part of our cultural is related to something very important. It's called history. Okay. It's about, now we finished geography. Now I'm going to history. Now, what is history? Anything which is happened in past and you want to remember it, correct? So we're going to be studying all of that thing, whatever happened in your past, that is your history. Now, how did it start? It began with the present, and then it looks like what has come before. So sometimes, so what it becomes difficult for the child is like to remember the concepts of multiple things. That is yesterday, tomorrow. They're staying in today, but it is difficult for the child, young child, not for everybody. The sense of time is difficult for the child. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So history is all about timing. So for the young children, it's difficult to understand and hard to understand the time conceptuals, like what happened yesterday, what happened day before yesterday. It's kind of difficult. Okay. But most of the children do understand because you can relate it to different people around you. Okay. So you can give them this time conceptuals through, this is you, this is your mama, and this is your grandmama. Okay, so they understand, okay, they have grown, they have lived for such long years. And the child is now able to relate everything related to your grandfather. And you could say, this is your grandfather's house. It looked like this, individual house. This is our house. We are staying in an apartment. Okay, so you can tell that, okay, this is our apartment. So what happened there was like, as the time has changed, our living has also changed. So we have moved to different places and we have stayed in different homes. There is a lot of development in our own way of living. The lifestyle changes are there. So now the child understands it. Now, when I show the picture of my grandfather, and if I show the picture of current house, there's a lot of difference. Now, what happens slowly? The child was able to relate to everything of past, which was very difficult at the beginning. Now, daddy showed everything. Now it's become very easy for you. Now you tell that is history. Okay, so you tell that's history. The world was not always as it is today. You tell them, you make statements. Don't you agree? Yes, they say yes. Then you give them questions. Okay, these are some of the questions. Now, what you need to say is like, for this to do this as an experiment, you can do this as an experiment in your classes. So you say, children, I'm going to tell something about the history. And for that, you all need to come to the history table. Okay, you create some kind of an excitement in your classes and you say, okay, children, now let's come to our history table. I'm going to discuss something and I'm going to tell you something which is related to history. And then children are all excited and they come, the teacher closes the door, she shuts all the windows, it's pitch dark. And she says, okay, we have been talking about history. Now I have offed all the lights. Okay, the teacher offs all the lights and she says, okay, now I have offed everything. So that means there is no electricity. Correct? There is no electricity. I've shut down all the power. But still we have to survive. So what should we do? Some say, ma'am, on the UPS, some say, ma'am, get a battery operated light. Some says, ma'am, you can light some candles or anything. Okay, then the teacher says, okay, candle is a nice idea. And the teacher, they say, okay, lantern or candle or anything. The teacher says, okay, let me now take candle. And she brings the candle to her table. And she gives the opportunity for the child. Okay, now what should I do? The child says, ma'am, nothing. You have to light the candle. The teacher lights the candle. There's some light. Okay, there's some light and everybody starts to smile. They're not scared enough, right? And then the other child says, ma'am, if we want more light, we need to light more diyas or more lights. And then the teacher says, children, in olden days, we did not have electricity. But do you still think that people survived? Yes, they survived with alternated sources of energy. So they had candles, they had lights, they had lanterns, they had so many things. And that is the history conceptuals or the introduction to history you actually tell to the child. So in history, apart from this, there are certain things that we need to also be working on. Okay. So whenever you're making cards, the classified cards on history topic, you need to work on the needs of a person. Okay. There is a lot of difference between need and want. What is it? There's a difference between need and want. I need water. I need water to drink every day to survive. I want cola. Even if I don't drink cola, I'll be fine. So there's a difference. So here we are only working about what is needed for us whenever we are trying to make our history cards. The first thing, guys, what do we need to stay? You need some shelter.
Shelter, clothes.
You live in a 1 BHK, 2 BHK, 3 BHK, 4 BHK, 5, 6, 7 luxury house. It doesn't matter, but you need some shelter. Then you need some clothing.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. You need
Water.
some. Yeah.
Food.
I'm just generalizing. Okay? I'm not going deep into it. You can take whichever is required for your class lessons. I'm going to talk only about very important one. You need to have some work because you need to earn some money, correct? So you need to work. You need some transportation because you cannot walk all the time. So it's a need, correct? And you need to also have some kind of a relaxing period. So you need to also have some leisure. So you can relax, you can go on a holiday and you could refresh and come back, right? So what I'm trying to do over here is like, whenever I'm trying to make my historical cards, I would be able to keep all these things as a first part of it. So how do I do this? I do it as a 3-part card, just like how we had our classified cards. So what I would start is like, I start with the needs of the day today. And second is like, I start from the period of time from today. So period is nothing but the time frame. And then I would, in the third set is what I would work is like the needs of the people, even back in history. So I take, say, for example, if I take about food, okay, I'm just giving you. Now there are so many things which is available online. Earlier, we did not have anything online. So we had to cook and eat, correct? Now here, if I'm ordering anything, if the food comes to my home, agree? Much before that, say 20 years before or 10 years before or even 5 years before, we had to go to a restaurant, sit there and have a meal, but it used to not come to our home unless and until that you had ordered for a home delivery or something. But we did not have very simple one like Amazon or something that which gives you instantly to your home. So this is just an example, okay? So we had to cook most of the time. But much before that, people had to grow the crops on their own, then they had to eat or they had to go hunt for something and then they had to eat. Just an example. So all this is history, correct? So what I'm going to tell over here is like, I'm going to help the child understand that there are people, everybody were eating at that time. Some food was there, but the lifestyle changes. Can you see it? Can you see the lifestyle changes of how it was before and how it is now? So that is what we are trying to relate it to. So these are certain things that you have to start giving it to the children. So if you were in India, the need for you today, if your mom is not there, you can order. You can call up Swiggy or something and you can call and come. And 10 years before, my kids did not have this opportunity to call anyone. They had to call me only. They were hungry. Okay. And much before that, I could not call my grandparent and say I was hungry. Literally, I had to walk to their home and I had to tell them, and I'm really hungry and I wanted to something to eat. And that is when my grandfather or grandmother used to cook something and give it to me. So we understood. So you have to give this kind of an information to the child. To make it much more easier, pictures are always great for me. So what I'll do is like, say, I can take a picture of any continent. I'm just going very, as an overview, I'm going, okay? So you can go deep into it. I'm taking continent, say Asia. You can take your own country and you can start working with that, okay? But I'm going very generic. So I'm going to take the continent Asia and I can draw a few things. I'm going to be working only on 3 important or 4 important aspects. It totally depends on how many points are you going to be introducing to the child. Now say the first sector that I'm going to introduce is about the food because I wanted to introduce about food. And then the second I say about the transport. Third, I say about the shelter of the people that they were in Asia. Okay. And then I could also talk about the clothing that I was actually having it. So you can have 3 things. Okay. The first diagram, the first picture that I'm going to be putting over here is what is my present. This is like sometime like 5 years, 10 years before. And this is your grandparents' time. So you can tell children, this is you, this is your mother, this is your grandmother. So you can tell at that particular time. So what is your favorite food? I like pizza, ma'am. What is your favorite food? I like biryani. My mother likes biryani. Still, most of the moms like biryani. And what about your grandmother or grandfather? Maybe they were vegan most of the time. And it is up to them. Okay, so you can ask. So you are trying to work on diagrams. So you help the child to learn with the help of diagrams because it helps them to work. So it's like a puzzle piece for you, which you can place it on the center of a mat. And whatever are the needs, but always remember it should be the need of today. We need food, we need shelter, we need clothes, we need transport. So you are going to work only on that. Music is not a need, it's a leisure, right? So we are not going to take that particular thing. So here in history, we're going to be talking only about the different needs of what we have for today. And then we start discussing. The child can discuss about it and we start comparing the 2 sets. It gives children a visual sense and more often like that. Okay, so this is one part of it. Okay, understood? So this is how you can actually work on your picture card. So you can bring a lot of pictures and you can help the child to work on the pictures. Now, the most important thing I was talking is about the time. the child does not understand the concept of time, correct? So they don't understand the concept of time. So they do not understand very important thing, which is called the calendar. So in our history, it's important that we introduce the concept of calendar also. So you help the child understand the measurements of time. Okay, so you gave them the introduction to something called as yesterday. We also gave them the information of what is tomorrow, and we also said that the present is there, but I'm not taking everything, so the time is passing. The child can understand. Okay, so you're coming in the morning, you came in the morning, you finish your class, and then you're going back home. So that when you came became a history now, right? So you can still remember it if you want to remember it. That's how you introduce the conceptual of calendar to the child, and you say today is this particular month, today is this day of the month, and this is the time that we start our school and things like that. So all your exercises which is related to this can be related to the month of the year, it can be related to day of the month, and it can also be related to the clock, the timings. So always remember, whenever you're trying to discuss anything which is particularly, okay, it needs to have some kind of relation to something. Now, say for example, if I'm talking about September, the first thing comes to your mind. I don't know. Okay, just the month. What comes?
Teachers' Day, ma'am.
Okay, somebody says it's Teachers' Day. Then what else comes? Then I say, okay, September, it's a very dear month because my birthday is also on the same month.
Yes.
Then you think on your month. Okay, what is September for you? Some might say there are no that month. Some might say I always plan my holiday during that particular month. You can also talk about the season and weather of the month. Something comes to you. Now, when I say January, what comes to your mind?
New Year.
New Year.
Good. You get the new year gift.
The academic.
What gift am I going to give to my son or daughter, right? So there are so many things. They're like, again, it's like solutions that you're trying to do. Or some
Pongal,
Pongal.
Republic Day.
Yeah. It is again country specific, and again it's about something which is so close to you. I'm not going deeper. Why we need to be having this is like any time that you're going to be introducing month in your calendar, you need to always make sure the month is special for the child. Are there any birthdays in that month? Because we are working in school, guys, don't forget, okay, we're all teachers, we're there in the school. So what makes the month so special? We have some beautiful boys and girls whose birthdays are going to fall in that particular month. So that month became really special because it was Amina's birthday, Arlen's birthday, Mani's birthday, so many birthdays I had it. Now, what if I had a picture of them? I put that picture. Now, where do I put it? In the calendar. I do have numbers, right? 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I go paste a picture over there. So that becomes easy for me to understand why is this month so special. And along with that, if there is a special day on that day, maybe it was an activity month of the day. Say like 21st is an activity day of that particular month. The teacher can put up that day very large somewhere. And she says, this is a real special day for all of his children because we are going to do this activity on 21st. And once the teacher does that, she takes everything and she puts it onto her notice board. This is the activity done by Arlen, Amina, Delphin, Catherine, then Namrata, Mani, then Deepti, then Monica, and so on, Padma Priya, and so on. What a wonderful event board I made to make this day really special. I see this on 22nd, I see this on 23rd, I see this on 24th, I see this on 25th. And this day marked what? It marked a history in our class. And it made our class a special day for all of us to actually count on. Okay, so that's the reason that you need to have this history board, not the history boards, the bulletin boards, the notice boards and other things wherein you can put something And if you leave it for some of the days, everybody comes there to see there. Oh, they're like, oh, last month you had this birthday and this celebration, and that becomes the history. And children understand the time did not wait for anyone. The days pass, the months pass, the year is slowly passing. So that means we got to learn something important. What is that? We need to teach the child about the clock. So the first thing what we teach them is about the hour. So we tell them this is 12, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So clock is not only in mathematics, you can also teach clock in history also. So that means in cultural science also, you can teach children about the clock. You teach them about the face of the clock. We call this as the face of the clock, wherein the numbers are all written over here. And you say this is your shorthand, represents your hour. The long hand represents your minutes. You discuss about where it's pointing, what is the time of it, and things like that. And then you can ask the children about the day. What time does our school start? 8 o'clock. What time is the short break? 10 o'clock. What time is the lunch break? 12 o'clock. What time are we done and we pack up our bags? Maybe 12:30. What time we reach our home? 1 o'clock. What time we take a nap? Maybe 2 o'clock. What time is your snack time? Maybe or a play time? Ma'am, 4 o'clock. What time do you study? Ma'am, 6 o'clock. What time do you have your dinner? 8 o'clock. What time you go to bed? 9 o'clock. And then you're done for the day. So what you're trying to work over here is like you make a personal timeline for the child, wherein the child is able to draw or write something of a specific age. Now, I'm not going very much detail into it. The child can orally say it or understand or something, but you give them a personal timeline and you tell them, how old are you? At 6 years old. Now he understands 6 years means so many days. Every day he had to get up, he had to eat, he had to go to school, he had to learn so many things. And the days pass and pass and months pass and years pass. And that's how he's grown taller, stronger, and more healthier. And that's how he's become 6 years old. You make the child understand the timeline. How do I make them understand the timeline? Take the pictures of all the birthdays. First birthday picture, second birthday picture, third birthday picture, fourth and fifth and sixth. And then you tell, this is your timeline. And you could do this as an activity. And you could ask the child to show it and put it on the event board. Okay, so your child becomes so happy to see, and he would also be happier to show his timeline to all his friends. But you need to know the parents need to give you all these images. So you need to do some kind of a work at your class. And parents cannot interrupt the classroom on the birthday celebration. So that is going to disturb the classroom environment. So you can collect everything. So this is related to your history. Okay, so that was one part of our history. So what we need to learn in history, we've just done a quick exercises on history, right? So we got to understand the history table. We learned about the cards. The diagrams are important, and we need to understand always the need of a person whenever you're trying to introduce your history. And then altogether, the calendar is important. When you're giving the calendar, the days, the months, the year is important. So towards the end, we need to also introduce clock for the child and make sure that the child learns everything connected together with the help of a personal timeline. And for all of that, celebrations are important because you're making every day memorable. Only when the day is memorable, you remember it the most. Or if it is miserable, you remember it the most. Agree? So it's our duty to make sure that every day is made special and we remember every day in our classroom. So this is the part of history. And we put everything to our history. So don't forget to take photographs of your class when your class is celebrating something, because it's an abundant way to store memories. And memories are the great giveaways that you can give it to your child in your classes. Okay, so that was history. And let me quickly move to the last part of it. It is called science. Okay, so we are moving to the last part of our cultural science. That's the major chunk is science. I'm going to divide this entire science into two parts. Okay, so I would start with the biological science, and I would also divide that into something called as the physical science. So we need to have both of them, physical science and the biological sciences too, right? So what is biological science? What is biological science?
The study of
Because
life
plants
process.
and animals.
Yes. So we learn about life. The
Life
life
process.
could be about a human being. It could be related to animals. It could be related to any other things, like any living organisms. Can I put it in that particular way? Anything which is living, right? So all my living organisms, it could be animals, it could be plants, it could be the human beings, all of us. So we are real. Agree? We are all real. We are
Yes.
the living beings. We are able to breathe. We are able to eat. We are able to excrete. We are able to do many things. So we are real. We are not artificial. So we are real. Correct? So in biological science, we would be dealing with everything, or we are going to be learning about all the objects, not the objects, all the living things, which is going to be real, and they are going to be living. And now the child has to get fascinated about learning the living things. Now, again, I would divide this biological science into multiple parts. Okay. So I could have this thing divided into something called as my biology and zoology. Okay. So you don't have to worry about introducing such big terms to the child, but I'm going to be helping you to work on these exercises. So we have biology and we have zoology. Now here, what are the things that you're going to learn? The first thing is like we're going to learn the names of, in biology, we learn about plants, mostly about plants, then trees and flowers and fruits and all of that. In zoology, we learn about animals and things like that, correct? So in both of them, be it in biology or in zoology, we're going to be working on the structure. How is it made? What are the parts of it? What is the physiology of it? Okay. A plant will have multiple parts. It has a structure, right? So it will stand, it will not sleep. It has a structure, it will always be standing straight. So what is making it to stand straight? It's got roots, and then it's got the stem, and then the branches, and then the beautiful leaves, and so on. So there is some kind of a physiology which is getting attached to it, and we are working on all of it. And further, we will be able to classify these plants. Agree? Herbs, shrubs, large plants, large trees, creepers, climbers, so many things. We would be able to also classify on the plants, and we can also classify on their ecology also. Where is it growing? What is the climate and weather does it need? What kind of supplements that I need to give it? Okay, so those are something that we need to also be working on the ecological perspective also. Now, in my class, wherein I would be having children of say 2 to 6 years, what am I going to teach them? I'm not going to be teaching them too much about all of that, but I will have to be teaching about very little things about plants, animals, and how do we explore, where do we find them, what is the color, how do we do, and all of that. Now, in this, uh, the biological science we divided into botany, not biology. Sorry, nobody corrected me. Okay, so we are going to be dividing that into botany and zoology, correct? So in botany, I'm going to be working more or less of things which is related to my plants, correct? So I can have exercises, like note down the exercises. So whenever I want to give exercises on botany to children, the first important thing is we all need to eat something to survive, correct? So we need food. And food comes from what? Your fruits and your vegetables. Your fruits and your vegetables. So what I should do, I need to prepare the food. Yesterday we saw food preparation, cutting, slicing, dicing, peeling, smashing, cooking, grating, all of that. All of that comes under food preparation. Second thing is like about your home. Say, for example, if you have a garden at your home, so you will have many plants, indoor plants, outdoor plants, whatever it is. So you are going to be taking care of those plants, correct? So how do you take care of those plants? You water the plants. Agree, everybody? You start watering the plants. Now, when you're trying to water your plants, there are certain things which is very important for me to also understand. How would I introduce this as a practical lesson for the child? Now, how does the practical life helps the child to actually work on? Say, if I can give the child a plant, I can give them some kind of a jug which has a long, what do you call, like the watering can, And you can take a sponge also, and you help the child to slowly water the plant, how much ever it is required, and to clean it up. So this is one of the simple exercises that you can actually give it to the child. Now, what if there is no plant? Okay, but children did got inspired and they all wanted, ma'am, this is such an exercise, lovely exercise that you are actually doing, but I don't have a plant. So what will the teacher do then? The teacher goes and inspires them. Children, it's always important that we plant seeds. So for planting seeds and you want to see the plant growing, you need soil, you need a pot, you need some kind of water, sunlight, and so many things. The teacher gives them the ingredients for all of that. And you can also carry a container or a small pot wherein the child is now able to grow his own plant. Okay, so this is one simple exercise, and seeds of your own choices that you can actually pick. And it's really nice because the child planted this particular seed on their own. So you give them all the ingredients and you scoop out some kind of a nutritious soil, you put them into the pot, you take as much as possible, and then you go very slow, scooping, and then you add the seeds. And after adding the seeds, again, you add another scoop of soil to it. And then you sprinkle some water, you add some water, and you keep and clean everything. And you keep this particular thing in sunlight so that, your plant is started to grow. So this is how the children do get inspired about the botany lessons. Okay, so you wanted it. Now, at the same time, after this plants and other things is all done, so we worked on seeding a plant and we saw how the plant was actually growing. But at the same time, what happened? We did watering also. And in the process of all of that, sometimes the leaves do get dry and they fall off, correct? So what you need to do is you need to collect all of them. And the teacher, since you're a teacher, you will be more working towards the nature and you will be working towards children, let's not waste anything, correct? So this is going to be your mentality. And the teacher says, children, out of those waste leaves and the dry leaves, we don't have to throw anything. We can make a compost. Okay, so this is one of the video that I have picked up from a student who is actually doing the compost preparation. So you can tell children that you need to be wearing the gloves and give a self-introduction and why it is so important. You can take an earthen pot and make sure that there is a tiny hole into that. Okay, so that you should also make a hole. If you see in the center, there has to be a hole into it. And since you do not want too much of a water seepage, you can actually put a stone or a rock altogether. Now, to start off with your compost preparation, the first layer, you can always have a compost. That's how we generally do it. You can put some compost and then you're going to put some dry paper and dry leaf. He's directly putting dry paper and dry leaf, but that's okay. So what's very important when you're trying to make compost is like a dry layer, a wet layer, a dry layer and a wet layer has to be created. Now you can add on to some fertilizer and all your household waste, your garden waste is what you're going to be taking it. You tell children that do not throw if you have a lot of plants. Let you put all those waste into it and then you have to really compress it. So you got to be pressing it a lot. And then add on to some compost which is available to you. So it could be the compost that you prepared the last month, or you can buy the compost from the market also. And then you gently dab it and press it. And then again, you got to have, so that's a wet layer. So you're going to add a dry layer and you add everything again, you press it, and then you need to close the bin. So this is a process of your compost preparation, and you tell the child to be much more responsible enough because you are caring for nature and you want the child to work on the progressive exercises because he's living in the environment and he's learning from the environment. So all these things, where do you do it? You do it on a table called nature table. Okay, you just have to give the name. Okay, it is nothing that you have to go buy something. That table name is called a nature table. So on nature table, what all the different things that you will arrange? So if you're using a plant growing exercise, seedling exercise, you will have some seeds, then you will take some water in a jug, then you will have a small pot and things like that. So it is related to whatever you have it. Okay. So once this is done, botany class or in this particular thing, slowly is what it's all about the plants. Okay, now you can give them exercises on different kinds of plants. What is a part of a plant? The part of the plant has root, stem, branches, flowers, and so on. And you do it with a 3-part lesson. Then slowly you also get into something called as zoology, wherein you try and explain children that all the animals are divided into 2 parts. Correct? So we divide the animals into 2 parts. Agree, everybody? Vertebrates and invertebrates. Okay. So vertebrates and invertebrates are the 2 kinds of animals that we have. So what's a vertebrate? What's a vertebrate? Come on. We learned it in our school. Anything that has a bone is called a vertebrate. Anything which is boneless, no bone, it's called an invertebrate. Okay. So any animal which has a bone, that's a vertebrate. Any animal which does not have a bone is an invertebrate. Okay. Now again, in my vertebrate, I can further divide my vertebrates into multiple things. Now, which all animals have bones? Vertebrates. So vertebrate has a bone, correct? So we have bones. Now I can further divide them into multiple things. Like I can have mammals. What are mammals? Animals which can produce milk. Remember that way. Animals which can produce milk are called mammals. Then we have amphibians. Amphibians. Water animals. Sorry, birds. Then we have fish or the water animals. Then we have something called as reptiles. Okay. So these are our 5 groups of vertebrates and we divide them into the following. Okay. Now, what you need to do over here is like whenever you're trying to introduce the different animals, always you have to introduce initially orally, guys. The names of the animals is what you need to introduce. So don't tell if it's a vertebrate, invertebrate, that you can tell later. First, you introduce all of that and then you go deeper into it. Okay, say for example, if I'm taking any animals, I can say it's a pet animal, wild animal, domestic animal, so many things. Then I can go with the parts of the animal. Okay, and then I can go deeper into it. I can show the nomenclature cards of it, all of that as a part of our learning. Now, what I do there is like, once this is all done, I tell or I give a 3-part lesson to a child and I say, okay, children, now we know that these animals have bones, these animals don't have bones. Let's do some classification. What's classification? You're going to separate it. So you have a picture card altogether. You have a label card. Okay. So this side, I'm going to keep my vertebrates and this side, I'm going to keep my invertebrates. Okay. Now the teacher slowly brings in the picture. Now what this animal has a bone. So it is a vertebrate. So if the child knows the name of the animal, really good enough. Otherwise, the teacher can introduce. Now, what about this animal? It does not have a bone. So that's the reason it goes under invertebrate. Cats have bones, vertebrates. And this particular animal has bones. So it's a vertebrate. You go on and on. This animal has bones, so vertebrate. What about this snail? It does not have bones, so it's an invertebrate, correct? So what you could do is like collect the pictures of the animals which has bones and which does not have bones and try to classify them into vertebrates and invertebrates. Okay, this is the first exercise that you're going to be doing it. The second exercise, what you're going to be doing is you're going to work on the culture. Okay, now what do you mean by culture of those exercises? The cultures is nothing but the names of it, right? So what we generally do here, how did we introduce the 3-part lesson in our Montessori? We collected some, what do you call, the picture cards, and you had the names which was printed with it, the classified cards. So you have turtle, frog, crocodile, okay, salamander. So you have all this. Then you have something which is called as chameleon, right? So all of these are your animals, and then you give by a 3-part lesson. This is frog. This is crocodile. Can you show me where is frog? Can you show me where is crocodile? You do it with a 3-period lesson. So this is one way of you introducing. And then you go deeper into your lessons. What is it called? Whenever you want to go with an extended version of it. Now, say, for example, if you want to teach about what is a part of a bird. Okay, so it's related to what card? Do we use a classified card or do we use a nomenclature card?
Nomenclature card.
Correct. So as I said, in nomenclature, see, first thing is a bird. So the bird is complete bird. Now, if I want to introduce the other parts of the bird, I will have to be highlighting that with what color? See, this is the head. Can you see the head? Yes, the head is highlighted with the red color. And you also have the label of the card detached. You can either have the naming cards attached or detached. So we have it as a detached. Now see the eyes. Now birds definitely have good eyesight because they need to fly, they need to hunt their meat. So that's the reason the bird's eyes are really very, very sharp. Again, you highlight the eyes with red color, and so with the other parts of your bird. Okay, now say for example, if I have any kind of a miniature bird, I can also bring it along. I could show them. Can you show me where is the eye of this bird? Okay, can you show me what about the beak of this particular bird? You ask the child to experience different kinds of the parts of that particular bird. What is interesting for me is like, whichever is the part that you're going to be introducing, that will be highlighted in red color. Nostrils. Do birds have nostrils? Definitely yes. They are not staying in water. So that means they have to just breathe like us. So when they have to breathe, they need to have nostrils. Can you see over here in this particular bird? It has nostrils. So definitely, yes, the birds will have nostrils. So you can bring on multiple things. Now, the most important one for the birds is the beak. The beak and the feet are really important. Okay, there could be different parts of the beak. Some beaks can be scooped like this to pick up the fishes. Okay, some beaks can be really sharp to go and peck. Okay, so those are the different kinds of the beaks that you can give. Now, if you see, the duck has a different kind of a beak. Now, why I wanted to give you these differences over here is like, whichever part that you're going to be introducing about a particular bird, you need to give them the references of those itself. So you can either show them through the pictures, or you could show some with the miniature objects, like whatever you have it. Okay, so you definitely get it. And remix are what I could say is like, it's a part of your wing, not your wing, on the bird's wing, which gives what we call as the aero density, because you want to, the birds need to fly, right? It needs the extra push of the weather conditions and other things. So if there are ramages, what happens is it gives the bird an extra aero density to fly higher and higher. So it's usually seen in birds like eagle and all of that. So this is a part of their wing. So it's an extra layer. It's a part of the wing which helps the bird to actually, work on the flying aspects. So you give children about all these exercises, and you also tell some of the birds do have this towards the end. Now, what about the tail? Do all the birds have tail? Not many. They have short tail. But if the tail is really long and slightly long enough, it helps them to fly better. Now, if you see eagle, it has tail. That's the reason it also gets a proper balance when it is flying. It doesn't wobble around when it is flying. Okay, the tail of the bird is also important. What about the other birds? Like if you see here, this does not have a tail. So maybe it is flying, but it does not fly that high. What about the duck? The duck also flies, but not really high. Look at the tail, it's very tiny. Okay, so what about the flamingo? Flamingo also has tail, but it does not fly much together. So on each of the part of the bird, you give them an extra information. So that's the reason you can also have something called as a definition books. Okay, wherein you will define what is it and why do you need to have it. Okay, now the definition book can be something like where you can print out something which is available and you could give it to the child. Now, say, for example, if I'm trying to make a book on a fish, or if I want to make a book on parts of a fish, my page can say, okay, this is head. Now, what is head? I write the definition. Head is at the front of the fish. It includes the mouth, the nostrils, eyes, and the gill covers. Then if I want to talk about the nostrils, nostrils are about the mouth on each side of the head. They work together to let the fish smell. They're also called nets. So you start giving the definitions of the particular object that you have it. So this is also one part of your definition book that you have to create it. Okay. So the last thing is about in your zoology is about the bugs. Okay, so you need to make sure that the children can learn about bugs. Now, bugs can be a little scary, so you can always make actions about the spider. In Incy spider climb out the water spout. Out came the rain and flushed the spider out. So you can have a lot of spider sing-alongs. And as a teacher, to remove this phobia of the bugs, you can make a DIY. Okay, so you can make a DIY and you can show them where all can you find bugs. This is just a miniature setup. So I've taken from super simple crafts, and you make a miniature crafts like this, and you can hide the bugs under. You can say, where all can I find the bugs? Then the teacher says, okay, we can find the bugs somewhere under the rocks, or we can find the bugs in the soil. Do we find it? We did not find it. And then the teacher goes, okay, let's find some of the bugs can be under the rocks also. But do we find it? No. Can we find it under? No. Try and let them have that kind of a anticipation for looking. Yes, we found one bug. Now the child understands, okay, the bugs can be found in nature and it is quite natural. Now, once they have that understanding, if there is a possibility for you all to take the children outside nature, okay, and mostly pill bugs are available most of the time and you see them very often, right? So you could introduce those things to your child. Okay, so you can take them on a nature walk to a park or a nearby park, and you could show the real bugs. Now they are not that very scared, they're not hesitant to observe, and they start keenly looking. Ma'am, yes, they're there in the bin. Ma'am, they're there in the garden. They're under the rocks. They're under the leaves. They are over here, ma'am, and this is how it is. And then you can ask the child to slowly look around. But do not try to kill over or do not have it, but see how they crawl over, how they get back, and how they move on, and how they are there. So you can give this as an activity to the child, but always make sure that the teacher is there. The children are too hesitant to actually do this activity. You can always show them. So you be as a referee and you show them the exercises, and the child will be able to look at those exercises and learn. Okay, so that completes our cultural science, okay, of something called as biological science. And the next small part is related to your physical science. Okay, note down quickly. We have something as a last part. This is the last topic. We have this as physical science. We do not focus this in our pre-primary. Okay, not much in pre-primary, but very few exercises we give them for children just to get an idea of what is a physical science. Okay, so we can use exercises like exercises on magnetism. Okay, so what is magnetic, what is non-magnetic? Okay, we can also use concepts like flotation, what floats and what sinks. We can also use exercises which is related to a submarine concept. Okay, so with that you can give exercises of volcano eruption. You can give exercises of reaction to oxygen to fire. Okay, those are something very similar, or sorry, simple, that you can actually work on. Now again, vocabulary is important, language is important when you're trying to introduce these exercises. Now you can give them a balloon and you ask the child to blow, okay, the balloon. So how does the balloon become larger and larger? Because there's something which is occupied space. And what is it? It is air, right? So the child knows the concept of space over there, that something has actually happened. You ask the child to throw a ball up, the ball falls down. Why? Because of a physical signs of gravity, right? So you could introduce this simple exercise, which has got a little bit of a scientific pheromone is what we call. So once you start giving these simple exercises to the child, your child will start to absorb all of that, and they would love performing these exercises in your classes. So it's important. So this is considered to be one of the important science lessons which the child can perform on his own. So you can give those experiments to the child. So make the child aware that this is related to scientific phenomenon. So it has some kind of a science. And then as the child gets the interest, then you start giving more and more exercises to just culminate their interest towards the science exercises. Okay, so this is a simple part of our cultural science exercises. And that covers all our practicals. So we have done language, math, then sensorial, EPL, and cultural. So we have done everything. So the end. And tomorrow being the final day, we're going to be working on the learning disabilities. So as a teacher, you've learned everything and you've applied all of that in your classes, but still you find some of the children are not doing up to the mark. There's some kind of a learning issues, the learning disabilities, or the whatever is the learning problems that they do have it. So we're going to discuss on all those learning disabilities tomorrow and how to overcome all of that. What as a teacher you will have to be doing for these exercises. Okay. Any questions or any clarifications need to be given on any other parts? I know it was too much of an information, but it's so much of the material also, so we can't ignore. All are quiet. Trying to recall, trying to recall, is it? Or how is it? Trying to recall, or it's like, okay. How was the session? How was the session? Good enough? Okay. So you understood most of it. I was really quick. I could not go field presentation, but what was required, I've shown you. Because it's very difficult for me to carry all that material to my home and then show it to you also. So that's the reason I thought I'll share some of the recordings and present it to you. But you guys make up those material in your classes, use those material in your Montessori environments and try to demonstrate those activities for our children. Okay. So then, is everything done? Are we done for the day or do we have anything? Yes. Yes, no, you can answer. Okay.
Fine.
So it's fine. Okay, all right. Then, as usual, we are going to be now tuning on to goodbye song, and then we say goodbye to one another. The bye bye song. Bye bye. Goodbye.
Bye. 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 Goodbye.
I can
I
clap.
can clap my hands.
I can
I
stamp.
can stamp my feet.
I can
I
clap.
can clap my hands.
I can stamp my
My
feet.
feet. Bye. Goodbye. Bye. 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 Goodbye.
Bye. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye. Goodbye.
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 Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Have a wonderful
Nice day.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank
you, ma'am.
Thank
Bye,
you.
ma'am.
Tomorrow for your last day. Thank you so much.
Bye.
To you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.